When some days he used to come from work, and he'd come from work in those days, and you did, pet clothes and pet dirt, and he'd wash his hands, and that was all. Have his dinner, he'd have a nap, then he'd be studying then till next morning. Probably study all night, and well, according to his own reckoning, he said many times he had to rush to get his dirt off to go work again. And other nights he'd probably go to Stoke Morning School, and then he'd probably sit up late or half the night studying again, and that was the reason we never really saw much of him, because he was either studying and he wouldn't allow us to mind him at all then. We couldn't even go in the kitchen, really.
Where did he do all his work, Mr. Brown? In the kitchen? Did he have part of the house?
Yeah, in the kitchen mostly, and we lived in the back kitchen. Of course, there was like the kitchen, back kitchens, and you could live in, they were different now in size, But then he had his nights out. We never saw much of him really, because we were probably out playing till he'd gone out, and it's hard to tell really.
What sort of man was he to look at, Mr. Brown, and manner? Was he severe, tall? What description would you give to him?
Well, he was a big hefty chap. He was bigger than me. He reckoned at one time he could have picked me up one hand, as big as I am now. And he said that at the age of 13 he could pick two 56-pound weights up and knock them over his head. When he was 13, when he lived on the farm. And he was a fairly hefty built chap. But he was very regimental, He's fairly severe, really. But it did him a lot of harm at work, that did, of course.
In what way?
Well, it did him good while he was a deputy in the pit, fireman, the Tamley Deep Pit. But when he become overman and managing, that sort of thing, it was too severe, You see, when he was a fireman, he regimented all the district he was in charge of. And that was the reason when he got buried the day that I was 14 I should say. And he was buried 3 hours and a half. But he'd never have got out if he hadn't have been regimental, because it wasn't long before, when he didn't turn up, they were that used to him being dead on time, and they went to look for him. But if he'd been anyone else, or any different ideas, if he'd had any different ideas, he probably wouldn't have lived after that day.
How did he get
But
buried?
they were that sure of his time each day. You see, what he used to do, the law states a fireman should visit the men twice a day, twice a shift. Well, the only road you can do it is going right round, and if there's any hindrance, you got to make it wait till next time. And what he used to do, if they weren't ready to fire these shots, he said, right, you'll be ready when I come again. Well, the next time he came round, the biggest half of the shift gone, And he got them used to it. And they either had to be ready or do without.
And so they did without money if they were on piecework, did they?
That's right.
If he didn't fire.
That's right, yeah. And he got them used to it, you see. That they were used to his time, they knew he'd be dead on time, and they knew if they weren't ready he'd walk straight through and carry on. And he always visited his men twice, which most firemen didn't. It was a lot of trouble really, but he'd spend such a lot of trouble to get his papers that he was frightened of losing them, you know what I mean?
Mm.
He spent 9 years to get his papers.
Fireman's papers?
No, his manager's.
Oh, I say, sorry, yeah.
But if he'd got caught out on anything, by the inspector. They could cross his papers out just like that. You know, he'd lose them easy on it. Well, he would always try to keep within the law. Well, in most cases, most firemen never offered to. They didn't bother. They got away with it.
What is a fireman's job exactly? You know,
Well, actually, a fireman is he's not really supposed to fire shots. A fireman, or what you call a deputy, they generally call him a deputy. He's the only man employed in the pit for safety. He's like, you might say, he's employed by the government. Because while he's in the district, he can even order the manager out. His orders goes, any orders he gives goes while he's there. That's independent of a manager or anybody. Until he leaves that district, his word is the law. And he's not supposed to be interested in how much coal goes, nothing like that, only in safety. He is the only safety officer really in the pit. I know I remember him stating that he could order a manager out of the district. And he did once. He went in the office about Bill Stubbs, a chap. Mr. Stubbs was the under manager, and he went round altering his orders. And he went in the office about it. And he got him kept out of the district. Because he'd have probably prosecuted him. He could have done. For changing his orders.
Could you give me an example of a type of order that a fireman would give? I mean, what sort of order does he give?
Well, if they have any trouble, if he gives a chap order to set a post, that's for safety of the roof, certain place, there's nobody can alter that order, really.
I see.
And if he states there's gas in a place, he withdraws the men. There's nobody within 24 hours can send the men back in there, even if there is no gas. If he says there is, that's it. He enters it in the report book. If he reports gas, and that gas is too much for the men to be employed in there, he can withdraw the men, fence the place off, and you're not allowed in for 24 hours, straight in any case. And all that sort of thing. Well, he had a case in Somerset. There was getting a lot of lamps broke. Well, it's an offence to break a lamp, safety lamp, you know. And a lot of lamps broke, so he had a notice put up that any more that were broke, they'd be fined, you know. They get a fine. Well, the first case they had was a young fellow broke his lamp and fined him 10 shillings. Well, at the time he said he sent for the office clerk and he told him, not, the wage clerk, you know, and told him not to stop this 10 shilling with it being the first offence, leave it as it was, but not stop it out of his wages. Well, he'd no sooner done that, he said, than this chap come with a union man on about this fine, you know. He said, I never was so mad. He said, I nearly got a bell on his desk for the clerk, you know. He said, I nearly put my thumb through the bell, you know, through the button, he did. And he told him to leave this fine. And he said, he said to the union man, he said, well, he said, I've no need to fine him. He said, but if I don't, I'll prosecute him. And I said, I'll tell you this now, it'll cost him a damn sight more than what it's going to cost him now. He said, when he went out, he was glad to pay the fine, you know.
How long was he down in Somerset?
I don't know, it's only about 3 years, I think.
That was his only time away from the potteries, was it?
Yeah.
And how did it break up? How can I get this clear from the diaries?
Well, they had an argument over they had a consulting engineer there, and they had an argument, and there was a bother. He cursed a lot of them, really, and he wouldn't apologise. You see, as it happened, this chap happened to be the chap that was managing at the mini petty when the explosion happened. And it was through the fault of the management as the explosion did happen. Really, he said anyway. And he didn't like this chap. He was supposed to be a consultant engineer then, at that time. He didn't like this chap giving him orders. And he told him straight, he said, for what you did at the mini pit, he said, you ought to have been in jail yet. It's been left to me, you would have been. Because he'd worked there and he'd seen some of the tricks going on, you know, at the time. And he wouldn't apologise, they paid him up a minute's notice. Well, he got a job after, that was at Newbury Colliery. He got a job later at Pensford Colliery, under managing.
In Somerset?
Yes, but he didn't like Somerset at all. He didn't like the... Mother said he didn't like how they talked, you know. He didn't like the language there. He said they talked backwards and all that, you know. And he couldn't get used to that. He didn't like the idea of learning their way of talking. And Mother said that it nearly drove him mad, you know. Said if the children were playing outside and he heard them talking, you know, he'd have the window shut, he wouldn't have the window open. No, like he said, it nearly drove him crazy. I know he told me once about two chaps, well, there's 2 or 3 chaps down the pit, and they were on about knocking a post out, you know. And one chap says to the other, "Itty out." And the other says, "Which one?" He said, "That one." And he says, "Look at the sledge." Oh, he said, that started. He said, I nearly went up the wall. He said, "Look," he said, "that's not he," he said. "It's no life in him." He said, "That's it, this post." He said, "And that's not a sledge," he said. "A sledge is something you pull someone on," he said, "if he doesn't fall off." No, it's like it. And he said, he said, even the reports, he said, he put, the fireman would report a fallen rock, you know, certain place. And he said, he put in the report book, he even sent for one chap, followed date, up, down, top of the dipple. Up, down, and he put it in writing, at the top of the dipple. Dipples they call, not dips, same as he. He said, "What sort of report they call this?" Well, he said a lot of it, nearly drove him up the wall.
What did you went to start work with him, didn't you, Mr. Brown, at 14? What was it? You know, what was it like?
Well, it was very poor, really, for me, because you see, he didn't like anyone to know that he was favouring me, and he always expected more out of me than anyone else. Well, it's not very good, you know. And if I did anything wrong, I got it in the neck at work, and I got it in the neck at home when I got home. And really speaking, I was glad when he left, and I stopped at only deep pit myself then. You know, I was really glad when he left, because I was better off working for someone else.
Yeah, yeah.
You see, sometimes your own, they expect more out of you than other people do.
Yeah. In his diary, you get a great impression in his old age of a terrific fondness for his wife, but he keeps saying that they've had a stormy life, you know.
Yeah.
Is this true? I mean...
Oh, yeah.
What was the big difference between them, if it's not too personal?
Well, you see, what happened a bit, he was that strict that it caused a lot of telling lies. You know, I mean, you always get that. Anyone that causes a lot of trouble, that's very strict and very severe, you get a lot of underhanded business goes on, you see. And my mother used to do it. You see, to save anybody, we used to tell lies any damn thing. Well, really it's wrong, we know, but you always get that. I was just saying before you came, when my mother had a purse stolen in Hanley, she didn't come home at the time. She had to send my sister to tell the old man. She didn't come and tell him herself. She was afraid of him, you know. Mother was scared of him, there's no mistake about that. And me and brother, we'd have fell out with him many times, but mother was always on to us to say nothing, just for peace and quiet, you know. And eventually that's what happened. He had more of his own way than he would have done, really. He had all his own way all the time until there was no doing any good with him, really.
What sort of woman was your mother, Mr. Brown?
Well, to me, my mother was one of the best. She's one, she'd do anything for anybody. It didn't matter what age she was, did it?
No, it didn't matter. She would do anything for anyone. Anybody in the world, and she was getting on in.
And she'd do more in a given time than any of us. That's what made me sense I've always had to be on my toes a bit, because my mother used to be that she'd do more than most men do now. That's what makes me wild a bit sometimes now, because my mother would do a job while you were thinking about it if you weren't quick enough. So you had to be on your toes to keep up with it.
Mm. What did you think of the painting? I mean, how did anybody think of the painting? I mean, your father did this about 5,000 paintings. How did the family treat them? Just as a hobby, or as something that was none of their business, or what?
Well, of course, we had to give way. I mean, he was doing things that we couldn't do. And he had the patience that we couldn't, that I never had, really, I don't think. Because there was a time when he spent up to a week drawing a picture before he started painting it. Same as when he did Santa Mall. One of my sisters have got Santa Mall now, haven't they? Well, it's a big thing to do. I did it once. I copied off his, but it took me long enough to do it. It took me a while just to draw the thing first. And he's done some that looking at the things, they might not look as much as some people think. It's same as this one. There's a lot more in that, the time it takes to do it. There's a lot more than people think. You wouldn't do that in a day by a long way. See how some artists do today, they don't do all the details. You see, same as that. All that's got to be done, every mark. Well, there's more in that than some of the chaps put in.
Hmm. I wonder if your mother thought, well, did it ever strike her mind that he was a good painter, or did she think it was a nuisance, you know? I mean, it must have taken an awful lot of his time up.
Well, the fact was it kept him good, you know. That's the way of looking at it. It kept him good and kept him out of mischief, but my mother always said it would never do him no good. None of his studying, nothing, because we had such a miserable life. My mother always stated that he'd never do no good over it. And it seems though he's pretty well right. She was pretty well right, because it never did him any good. Because he lost his job through managing, he lost his job through his temper, really. Mm. And he was blacklisted. He never really got a job managing again, not properly. And Jimmy Ogden, I don't think he'd ever had a... It's a question if he'd had a good job, a decent job, he'd hadn't been to Jimmy Ogden. But Jimmy Ogden was a lifelong friend of his. That's before he went managing. And he got him the job when he came back, you know. Mm. And he remained at Park House, well, most of the time. He had a job one time at a futsal, but he didn't have that long, because it was a pit that wasn't provided for properly. It was a futsal, only a small affair, and there was only 2 firemen, one in each shift, and him and himself, like, and he used to have to reckon the wages and every damn thing. He was clerk and all the lot, manager, the lot, really. Mm. And he said he got no proper powder magazine, and one thing and another. And when the inspector came, he said there was detonators in the office drawer, there was powder in a box that he was sitting on the side of the fire. He said he was that scared he took the job in. He said because if everybody had found out, he'd have lost his papers straight off. Because the manager's responsible for all that, you know. Mm. And anything against the law, and you've had it, you know.
Mm. Could you give me an idea, Mr. Brown, of what sort of, you know, what his average day would be? You know, what does a fireman do? What did he do? When you knew him at this last bit, the futsal, was it? What sort of What sort of thing would he be doing from the beginning?
Oh, blimey, I don't know about that. Because I never knew about that job really, only what he said. This was only about this.
But he's working, is he working above or below ground?
Oh, well, it's all below ground, really. See, most of his life was farming and ovum. Well, that's all below ground. See, that's giving the orders to the firemen and the men in general. And then travelling around the district, seeing that things are okay, you know, everything's all right. But it's a job that they're the same, right? They come within the law. If he sees anything that's against the law, he must do something about it. If an inspector ever knows that he's seen a thing and done nothing about it, he loses his papers just the same. And there's a lot to it. It seems when he was at the park house, Calder, he used to have trouble with the men sometimes. He used to leave it sometimes. He said he'd leave it about a month or a couple of months. And Saturdays, when there's a football match on, Saturday dinner time, they used to be fighting to get in the cage nearly, going mad in the pit bottom. Well, he used to come out purposely to settle that lot. And used to have to knock the cage away, wait till they sorted themselves out, and he was threatened and all kinds of damn things. And he used to have to do that fairly regularly, because they were all rush, you know, when there was a football match on. And in case of accidents, the firm's always liable, you see. And he used to be quite regimental on that. See, he started off regimental because only deep bit years ago, when he first started as a fireman, they were very regimental there. Everything was regimental almost. The banksman on the bank at the top of the pit, he could knock your light out and you couldn't go down till you'd been to see the manager. And the hooker at the pit bottom that sent the loads up and that, you know, he was the same. If he knocked your lamp out, you couldn't do nothing till you'd seen the manager. If he reported you, you wouldn't be allowed to work till you'd been to see the manager. And they were very strict at that time, and he was like brought up wrong probably. That was a lot of his trouble probably, I'll admit. It was instilled into him, this regimentation, until it did him harm later, you know. Did him more harm than good, really.
How long, what age were you when you left him?
Well, when he went to Somerset, I was only about 16, I think, 17, wasn't it?
And then did you live with him when he came back?
Pardon?
Did you live with him when he came back?
No, see, I've never lived with him since.
I see, you just lived with him between
See, when
9
he
and
came
16.
back, he got on to me one night for coming in late, and I just walked out, and I've never been back since. Because I've been the same myself. I never believe in my lads coming in to time, nor my girls. I don't believe in anybody tied to time. See, my lads used to, the girls went to dance. There's always lads to go meet them, you see. Any of the lads used to go meet them. They went to dance. I don't believe in anybody having to come away for bed, you know, and leave the company, telling people you've got to go for bed. It makes you look so childish, really. And the lads have never bothered, ever.
No.
And I don't believe in it myself. I think if you were the company, you should be able to stop to the last, or I don't believe in that sort of thing. It spoils the night for anyone. Well, my father was very funny. He got onto me one night and I just walked out, and I've never been back since. Not to live.
What was it like when you used to go back and see your mother, Mr. Brown?
Oh, my mother. Mother, it's like a comic opera. She's a bigger rogue than us.
Could you tell us a few tales of it? Because she's going to be very important in this, Mr. Brown. I'm not going to bring the family into it, but I think your mother is very important.
Oh, yeah. Well, Oh, mother, he's always mad. Because, you know, she'd had 3 children. My father said she'd had 3 children when she won a skipping competition, so you can tell.
Yeah.
That's over against single girls and all.
Yeah.
And she was quick, there's no mistake about that. You know, same as chasing you around the kitchen table. But she could always beat us.
Just have lots of fun with
You could
her.
guarantee you're going to lose if mother started running around the table.
Yeah.
She could
Well, it's full of
outrun us.
life.
She could outrun us. She's quicker than us.
Mm.
That's what's made me senses I don't believe in dawdling much, because my mother taught me that you've got to be on your toes to keep up with her, you know.
Mm.
And she was one, she wouldn't argue if you started arguing about doing a job. Then she'd do it before you could argue.
Mm.
The job would be done, so it like really shamed you, you know. And you feel ashamed when a woman at her age, I mean, when she got up to 50 and like that, she was still quicker than us.
Mm.
It was only when she had the illness at about, and she'd be about 60, wouldn't she?
Yeah, she had a very bad illness then, didn't she?
There was no consideration. Your father hadn't sort of knocked the spirit out of her or anything like that.
Oh no, not that. No, as soon as he was
No.
gone out, you know, we were let loose.
No.
He come back one night. And we hadn't been out 2 minutes, he come back with something. And Alfred was on the kitchen table, dancing on the table or something like that. He nearly went to the wall. We were all going mad.
When he lost his temper and went through the wall, what did your mother say? Did she fight him or let him have his own way?
No, blimey didn't. Oh, they had some battles. Because
Why?
my brother-in-law, he's dead now, but the first time she took him in the house, he hadn't been in 5 minutes before there was a body, you know. And mother left him out of the teapot, just missed his nose. He said to her, I think we better get out of here. And he never forgot that. The first night she ever took him home. Yeah, we had some fun like over it, hadn't it? One time, they're falling out, you know, mother threw a sauce in. And it hit the old man on the end of the elbow. And it split his elbow both ways. He was on about that months. With it being there, it never went better. And he got over his step, you know, he started to mother comically then about this split on his elbow. I know one night I went walking up the street, I went walking up home, and it was the old-fashioned latch, you know. Open the latch, you know, open the door, put one leg in and a pint mug or something, hit me on the knee. I put my leg out, shut the door and went. I didn't bother to see through it. That was the sort of thing, you know. We did get the comical side of it sometimes, you know. It's funny.
Well, what did they clash about? I mean, why did they get to say, why did your mother throw things?
Because the old man was so bad-tempered and she'd got to stick up for herself.
Oh,
sometimes,
well,
love.
I mean,
If she didn't, he'd be a monkey, as you call
Would he?
Man, he was a grand old fellow.
he's a very rough character,
And
you
she
know.
was a grand lady until the week.
Well, the first
she
mother
died.
I ever saw, it frightened me till I slept out a week. Because I'd never seen bothers with my grandfather, my grandmother. See, I was Granny Reed till I was 9. Well, I never saw anything like that. And the first bother I saw, the old man came from work, and when mother put his dinner, what the bloody hell do you call this? And he kicked it right up in the air, the table leaf. He kicked the table leaf off, and the dinner went right up in the air. And the table leaf, what frightened me, see, the table leaf fell on my brother. He was asleep on the settee. Well, it was the old couch, you know, then. He was asleep on the couch, and he was about 2, I think. And this table leaf fell and hit him on the settee, and he started screaming. Well, that and mother started falling out with him, and that put the wind up me. I run out, and I slept out a week. I came back here, and I slept out on Cooper's farm a week. It put the wind up me. I've never seen anything like that before. And he was very severe, there's no mistake about that.
Did your mother ever take the mickey out of him about painting?
No.
No?
Oh, no. Oh, no, mother admitted he was clever, I'll admit.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, in many ways. You see, he's done what I don't think there isn't many men would ever do. I don't know anyone that ever would. Because working regularly and 9 children, it's not easy. And to do the things he did do, because before he started painting, I know he must have done thousands of pen and ink drawings, Indian ink.
Yes, for his mining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them there.
Because I've seen pictures of engines as big as that wall nearly. You used to have to do them in about 4 parts on big sheets of paper and then pin them together, you know. There was the fan engine at Tanley Deep Pit, the winding engine. I've seen him do them in great big things. And I knew it took some time because he did them in every exact detail, you know.
Full size?
Oh yeah.
Full size?
Then there was that Science and Art of Mining. Have you seen that?
Don't think so.
Have you got it here?
No, it isn't here at the moment. That isn't.
So he used to answer questions for the Science and Art of Mining. Well, he had his photo in the Science and Art of Mining for the highest number of questions answered for the year. You know, whoever did, they used to have the photo published, and name and all that, you know. And at that time, years ago, it was, if you had one published, you had £0.50. They paid you £0.50. And it was published. Only Ajax lent them, but there's a lot there, all that have been published of his. And you do a drawing, you see, you answer the question, and you do a drawing illustrating what you mean. That sort of thing. And, well, we've got most of them, haven't we?
Wow.
But he's got a big book. He had all the... Did we have the big book?
No, we didn't have it.
He had a big one bound, so, I don't know whether it was that particular year. All these Science and Art of Mining bound together into a big book, you know, with his own illustrations in, that sort of thing.
You haven't got it then?
No, I haven't. I don't know whether Owen has.
She might have it, I don't really know.
But we've got some, I know, but Jack's lent them out at present. He's been lent out a few weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah. I don't know whether we've got some upstairs. I'll have a look while yet. Carry on.
But I know to my sister, it was at the time when we only had oil lamp, you know, the old paraffin double burner lamp, and there was no gas. We had no gas, no electric in those days. And my sister went to bed with a candle without a candlestick. And you know how you stick them on the shelf? Well, there's a shelf, there must have been thousands of these drawings, one thing and another, and all the lot got set afire. That night too, there was a hell of a row about that, you know, because it was really neglect. But the amount that he's done, I don't think it doesn't seem possible, because when he was writing that book, he's supposed to have been writing a book about all the implements and that used in mining, you know. Well, he reckoned at the time that he was doing more writing, longhand, than the office staff were doing for the wages, and he was doing that in his spare time at night. And a lot of things that happened, it doesn't seem possible really, because he read history books until he knew more about history than I ever knew. He had these, I think they were £1 a week. The paper, same as these, like a magazine, but they were all parts of history, and he used to read them and save them, you know. He had quite a pile. But how he had time to read them and paint and study and one thing and another, I don't know, you know. It didn't seem possible.
Did he lead any life of his own apart from this? Did he ever take your mother out, or?
Well, he didn't very often go out. The most he ever went out himself was the same as the morning school. He used to go morning school twice a week, I think it was. And then he used to go out to probably have a drink. You see, mother never bothered to go out much. And then with the children, I don't know. Well, what went on between them that way, I don't know. But Mother was never bothered, I don't think, because
She was all over.
she used to enjoy herself with us, and she was quite satisfied. Because when the old man went out, we used to have some real times. It was a madhouse, you know.
What did she let you do that he wouldn't let you do?
Oh, everything. Oh dear.
Play about.
I used to do more
after
tricks
that.
on it. The old man never spoke to me for about above a month. I did one trick on it, you know. I thought I was doing this on here, but I came out and I switched the electric off at the main, you know, again the front door. It was just again the front door. I switched the electric off when I walked out, and Mother used to generally switch the light on to get a shovel of coal, you know. Well, I expected her to find out. Well, she must have done. And it appears that at night, when they come to switch on, at night, they finished up sending for the electric man down Stoke.
Sorry.
When he came in, he just looked at the switch and switched it on, you know. Well, he never spoke to me for about a month. He knew what had happened then.
Had he, Mr. Brown, in his, according to the diary, there's no sense of humour there. This is one of the things that's missing. Did he have a sense of humour himself, or was he a very serious man?
Oh no, he had a sense of humour pretty well, but I don't know how far. Now I know he didn't like jokes done on him. It's funny, he wasn't much for jokes done on him because he happened to understand the deep bit. It's hard to tell about that because the joke they did on him was a dirty joke, and he settled that.
What did they do to him?
Well, they had baths made, you know, for the firemen. There was no baths. The firemen there were the first ones to have baths. Well, they were like a square brick thing, about a foot deep, like a bath, as you might say. And they had to fetch buckets of hot water, and such like, fetch their own water, put buckets in and wash them like that. And I believe they could run the water off after, but they had to bucket the water, fetch it, you know. And while he was bathing it, somebody took a shovel full of ashes and poured in the bath behind him.
Hot ashes?
You know.
Ordinary ashes.
Ordinary ashes.
Ashes out of that soul. How do you...
Yeah. And, well, it was a dirty joke because, you see, it meant getting all that out, cleaning the bath, fetching fresh water. Well, what he did, he got out, he got a bucket, and he started throwing it all around the place.
Up in his own back.
And these folks was half dressed for the home, you know. Most of them were bathed, and they were half dressed for going home, and he let drive all round the lot.
Well, with ashes?
Yeah.
This water and ashes, and the stray cold, this genuine, they were there holding the clothes up after. But he said it cured him, they didn't, there's none of that acting the fool again, there's none of that no more. But then, you see, when you're going home, you're getting ready to go home, it's a dirty trick to do, it's a horrible trick really, that's what. But he did have a sense of humour, there's no mistake about that.
He was all right, old man, right?
You know,
He was a grand old man.
he'd fall out about the thing and then he'd laugh about it after, you know.
He's
it was
like
same
the
as-
books, you know.
Same
He's
as
a
when,
model father, yeah.
when he had his elbow split, you know. He'd done about that in a comical way, you know, after.
Yeah.
He'd done about that for weeks, you know. And he kidded the old woman up always about that. Oh, he had a sense of humour, there's no mistake about
Oh,
that.
my. But he was serious on all he did, his works and all what he
Yeah.
did. He was a very serious person. He wouldn't like to go and interfere with what he was doing. He wanted to do his jobs and done with. He liked what he was doing. He'd come home and do them, you see. And nobody had got to disturb him. Not even Mother had got to disturb him. Not Bill's mother.
I'll tell you what he was good at. He wasn't very humorous, but he used to like to listen to tales from other people. He was one of those chaps, he'd sit all night in a pub, you know, with the old
Yes.
cronies, if he could listen to tales and, you know.
Would he?
Yeah,
Yes, oh yes.
blimey.
Oh, he liked listening to people. And
That's the reason I don't think
his
he'd
mind
ever,
would be in it,
he
you know.
never would have made a good manager. Because when he was under managing, you know, he was warned many times about drinking with the men.
Was
He used to get in the pub with the men. Well, you know, under manager or manager, you're not supposed to do.
No.
And he was warned many times about it. When he got used to chaps, you know, he loves to like to get among the sawdust and among the old cronies.
Oh, wow.
But he'd been used to it a bit, you see, because he said when years ago he travelled for Singer sewing machines and that sort of thing. He had a while at that. And he said when it was a wet day, they used to spend all day in the pub. It was when the pubs were open all day. We spent all day in the pub, drinking and skittle alley at the back, you know. Played skittles and one thing and another. Well, he was damn near eared in it. And then on the farm, he had his first pint at 13. When they used to go with a load of hay, a load of straw, you know, same as to the Potteries. That's the first thing the landlord did, was set him a pint up. And some places they used to put up for the night and that sort of thing. Well, they had nearly all the drink they wanted.
And did he come in with the straw like that? Did he come in with them?
Oh, it was a time when, years ago, it was a time when a chap could go to Hanley, say from here, and he could come back blind drunk, flat on the wagon, and the horses would bring him back. That's our Jack's. Stuffed elephant. You don't want that.
Hey, I think that's good. That's about how we go in and see a thing.
Ah, I'd knock at the door, he'd say, the first thing he'd say, shut the door, it's cold. I'd do it. I'll say, all right, I'll shut the door. Say, come and look. Very nice, Father, yes. And he said, but I've got to do a bit on that, he said, a bit of painting on that, he said. And I'm sure there's a bit of colour on that. And he'd get his pen and get with it, you know, to get in. He'd do it there and then, like as he said it, he'd do it there and then. And then he'd say, I think I'll put a horse on that, or something like that. That's something, you know. And he used to talk to me all like that. He'd say, yes, oh yes, oh yes. So that's what I used to say to him.
You know.
Oh.
Because he admitted he wouldn't go to the lavatory. And if he
Sometimes he'd wait if he was busy.
doing a part of a painting, he admitted he wouldn't go to
yeah.
the lavatory till he finished it. If he killed him, nearly.
Oh, if he was very
And
busy.
he did him a lot of harm that way.
Oh, yes. But he was a grand man for doing
When he was doing flowers or anything like that,
Oh, no,
he'd finish a flower. If he was doing a flower, he'd finish that before he went to the lavatory.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Was the house filled with paintings or not?
Yes,
yeah.
all round. We got all his paintings all round. And
All over the wall.
And I'll tell you what he'd say to Mother.
Many, you know.
He'd say to Mother, to his wife, come and have a look at this, Mud.
Yeah.
And he used to come. He'd say, yes, yes, it's very nice, Father. This is how he used to do. Very nice. But I think I'll take it down again
Right,
and do a little bit more on it, Mud. And then he'd put it back and show Mother. I was interested, you know.
And did she really believe it was nice, or was she just taking him along?
Yes, but he used to say it was nice,
Well, you
but
know,
some things he hadn't used to do.
The point was, she didn't make a fuss of him, but she knew, I mean,
She
we all
know,
did.
yes.
She knew it was what a good man he couldn't do.
No, he was grand.
And Gordon Forsyth, remember, he mentioned that he got something. Now, backgrounds alone, most people don't go to a lot of trouble, but Gordon Forsyth said he'd got something that other people hadn't got. He could do backgrounds better.
Oh,
And one
yeah.
thing or another. He had got a touch that a good many hadn't. There's a good many who'd like to have been able to do things the same, you know.
He went in the Miners' Home once, where we went for a fortnight's holiday at Blackpool. And you would know where to find him, be sitting on a wall there, and he'd be having, he wouldn't, if I'd be painting, doing his sketches. And Father said, I've always called him Father, and always said, do it again, like, and that's that. Now, when I get one, I'm going to paint that, and it'll be nice.
And he used to write on what sort of trees they were.
What kind of trees and the flowers and everything as he saw. He used to write and rough sketch of everything. He was. I tell you this, he was a grand man for the things as he did.
As regards knowledge, it's very funny because now he knew every tree.
Yeah.
We'd been on a farm. Blimey, he could tell me
Knew
all
the names
about
of them, everything.
trees, the names, what trees they were. Now I don't even know the trees.
Oh,
And all that did. But he knew all the trees and every damn thing. Nearly, he could tell you straight away what a tree was looking at it.
yeah.
And on the pictures he used to put the names of the trees on. And when he come to do, he knew what to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I wouldn't, just the
What
same.
he put his mind to, he did.
Yeah.
He did everything he put his mind to. And he'd sit there. Mother would bring his tea in on the tray, you see, and bring his tea to him. And he'd do different things, you know. His mind would be there on his work, what he was doing.
Well, he told me about the lads used to have,
yes.
his grandson, Vi's lad, used to have the Hotspurs and them sort of books years ago.
Mm.
Well, there was tales in about these African tribes, I believe they were, the shadow of the Assegai and one thing and another. And well, it was him that told me that a lot of these tales were true. Well, he knew from reading history. Oh, blimey, he'd read more history than I ever thought of.
Oh, yes.
That's beside she was good to do that with Indian inks. I mean, it means drawing all that, and then doing it over again.
Were you ever there when he had? Were you ever there when he had an exhibition at Hanley?
No.
No, we didn't go.
I've even
Mother
took the
did,
paintings
didn't
up.
she? Because
I've never been to one.
Mother
I've
used to
took the
take the
paintings up.
paintings up to him, hadn't she?
Why did Mother go with him then?
Well, he used to like Mother take him up now and again, his wife, you know, would he take him up? Well, he'd got a lot to do.
When
He'd
she
got
was
to
fit,
work.
she used to take
She
them,
used to
and
take them for him.
sometimes I used to take them.
And sometimes he used to go and take
What
them.
happened when you took them up? What did they say? Did he tell you the ones you wanted took up, like?
Oh yes, he gave probably about a dozen, you know.
Take them up.
Well, you see, Bemrose admitted that he used to be dissatisfied sometimes, but Bemrose told him he was the only one that had damn near half of them hung.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
some people sent about a dozen, only got about one hung. Some got none, because they had to be passed by a committee, you know. And he said, Bemrose said he was damned lucky really to do as well as he did, because he did better than a lot of people.
Yeah.
But a lot of this is things I couldn't do. I could do a bit, but that's the sort of thing that, now if you went down the pit, you wouldn't see it like that.
I've got a
See,
daughter that does
you got to
anything
make
like
a
that.
picture.
Paint and that. Takes after
You see,
grandfather.
it's same as this. There's a coloured one, where the lights,
Okay,
all
Jeffrey.
that. You see,
Tuition, because in mining you had to know everything.
well, he said he wished he'd been in some other trade, because he said studying for mining covers that much, then you've got to learn too much. Because you've got to cover, like, you have to be in charge of electricians, chemists, everybody really. And he said that a first class paper makes it, when you get a first class paper, you should be able to start a pit from open field, know when to sink the shaft, where to sink the shaft, how to brick it, how to lay your bank out, screens, everything, how to start their workings, which way to start them, every damn thing. And he said there's more, you have to learn more in that trade than any there is. Because you have to know when your boilers want seen to, when they want testing for cleaning. And he said when he went managing, that's the first job he had there. You had to cut all the boilers off, because they were ready to blow out nearly. Because when they get so much sediment in, they blow out and put the fires out themselves, you know. There's a safety plug in them. And he said when he come to test them with hydrometry, they were ready to blow out any time. And he had a bit of bother about that. And there was lots of things. He said there was other things. He said the chief engineer there, he was, he said the cage was just like a collapsible basket nearly. It was that loose. Every nut and bolt was loose on the cage. And he got on about that. He was on to the engineer about it. He said, well, I'll tell you now. He said, if you make that rigid, you won't run your pit no more. He said, because it has to be like plastic to go round the bends, going down.
So what did he do about that?
Well, he had to leave it. He said it was an old-fashioned pit, you see. And I believe it was wooden guide rods. Well, the wooden guide rods used to warp with water. If there was any wet, they used to warp and bend. Well, if they made the cage rigid, it wouldn't have worked at all. It wouldn't have gone round the bends, you know. He said it had to be like a collapsible cage. And he said this was told to him by the the engineer now, in charge of the fitting staff, you know, that sort of thing.
Do you reckon these Somerset blokes treated him like a troublemaker from the north? Was he too dynamic for them, do you think?
Well, I think that was a lot to do with it. But his biggest trouble, you see, they were very old-fashioned. That's what caused his bother, really, that he got the sack. How he come to get the sack was he was installing haulage. Well, it was haulage that is what they call a main and tail haulage, and it had to go around 22. There's 22 star pulleys, 11 bends in this road, and all these pulleys had to be set dead exact, else they wouldn't work properly. And he had a lot of trouble with it. He had a week's trouble. And he said when he found out the trouble, he damn near got chaps killed over it. And he said by the time they got it right, the people, the men were frightened of the thing. You see, and he said if you get that the chaps are scared of the thing, then you might as well pack it in. And that's what upset him mostly. And when he found out what the trouble was this consulting engineer was one pulley that he'd put in, one pair of pulleys, one place, that he'd installed and he'd put them in wrong. That's what started the argument.
He does a lot of night paintings, Mr. Brown. Did he go out a lot at night, or did he... What makes him paint at night, do you reckon?
Well, I think what started, you see, was when... I think at night, when he came in at night, he'd get off the tram at the top of the canal bridge, and he'd probably stand there a bit having a look at Charlton Bar, you see, Charlton Steelworks. And then, when he worked at Parkhouse, he did a lot at Parkhouse, he used to walk up Etruria Woods, and he used to rest at the top, because it was a fair climb for a chap his age, and he used to rest at the top. Well, you could see all Charlton Steelworks from the top. He has got some that were painted from the top of Etruria Woods, you know. Mm. And I think we're doing it every day. Well, you know, when it's dark mornings and coming home damn near in the dark, that sort of thing. But it's mostly going in the morning. He could stand and see this lot always, you know. And he was always interested in any damn thing he saw nearly for painting. Yeah. He did paintings that he couldn't really do. He'd try anything, you know. And same as figures. He was no good at figures, really. He was never any good at figures, but he always liked to put on what he saw. And of course, same as this, he'd seen these chaps doing things, but he never could do figures, really.
Hmm. What would his shifts be when he was, you know, what were the shifts, all this, when he came over through Etruria Woods?
Well, mornings, you see.
He would start when?
Well, he got up 4 o'clock, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He started at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And he walked, you see how he come to walk. When the war was on, he couldn't get buses. The buses weren't sure, you see. He'd get a bus to Newcastle. He had to get 2 buses, you see. Well, many times when he got to Newcastle, he'd missed his other bus, and he finished up late. Well, the management at Parkhouse, they give him the privilege of coming late. Oh no, he said. Oh no, he said, I don't believe in that. He said, if I go late, he said, you can't expect the men to go early. He said, if the management starts being late, you can't expect any different from the men. So he finished up, he walked. And on top of that, like what I was going to tell you, he wrote to the bus companies about it. And when the war was on, and they said they were in the hands of their drivers. He wrote to Parliament about it, and he did nothing. And he finished up all through the war. He walked
Right
to Parkhouse then every morning.
Yeah, right over, didn't
He come back on the bus, generally, but he walked every morning.
Yeah.
And he used to have to get up at 4 o'clock. That's what made him, when he did retire, he was up every morning making us a cup of tea at 5 o'clock. Because he'd been that used to waiting until he couldn't sleep no longer. He'd get up, make a pot of tea for him and Mother, and And then he'd go back to bed again later.
Mm.
But he used to get up with waiting, he used to get up and make a pot of tea regular. But some ways he was a very funny chap. When he fell out with my sister, he caused quite a bother. That was how I come to fall out with him, just before he died. Just before Mother died, actually. He's very regimental, you know. At home, you know, he put the mother's cup and saucer, his cup and saucer, the sugar basin with the saucer on top to keep the dust out of anything,
Yeah.
and the spoon there on the table, and the milk, and my sister happened to wash the dishes, and because she put them back in the cupboard, in the kitchen cabinet, he went up the damned wall nearly because she put them different. And that sort of thing. He was very funny. He liked everything in place, and it had got to be. Place for everything and everything in place, and he was dead regimental that way. He was very near saying down a bit, you know, everything regimental.
Was he always like that? At home as well?
Oh yeah.
And yet your mother wasn't that sort of woman at all, was she? Just the opposite by the
No.
sound of it.
No, our mother's very easygoing, really.
Very homely. Do anything for anybody, even for father, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and mind you, she was that quick and that sort of thing. When they had a bother, father had to keep his eyes open. By God, he didn't have to take his eyes off. He'd laugh and get some of the back of the neck.
When you say, has been on to me again. Has been on to me again, mother.
Oh yes, she said the day I was born, she had two black eyes.
Mm.
Did she?
Oh,
Yeah. That's
And,
how he come to go to his
they had a
granny.
bother, that's how I come to be Granny Reid. They had a bother, and she run off and left him, took me and left him, and left me at my grandmother's, and she went in service on a farm somewhere.
And then he went back after a few days after.
So,
He went for it. Back again.
oh, she left him many
he?
times.
Yeah.
She left him many times.
And when she left him, did he come back and ask her to come back?
Well, how they got together properly again, I don't know, but
He always used to go.
I don't know really. But he always used to be crying nearly after she'd gone.
After gone.
Because he was one, he couldn't look after himself. I'm
He
sick.
wanted mother back.
He was down there like a child. As regards looking after himself, he was very poor. And he used to be ready to go on his knees nearly to mother and after, you know. But at the time, he could never hold his temper.
Well, did he
You
have to
know,
lash out with his fists? I mean,
Times, yeah.
did he?
Mm.
What about with men? Did he ever lash out with his fists at men, or did he restrain himself?
Oh yes, he's very antagonistic.
Was he?
Oh, blimey, yeah. I know he's telling me about a chap in Somerset. He told an old chap about his work, something wrong with his work, you know. He said, when I got on the bank, his two sons were there. He says, two chaps as big as me, waiting for him on the bank.
The bank is where? Up at the top?
On the pit bank,
Ah.
you know.
No, is that above
On-
the surface? On the surface? Yeah. Ah.
And when he come, he said, what have you been saying to my father? Look, he said, what I should say to you, he said. And they were arguing, he said, and they were on one chap said, one of them, these brothers, he said, if he'd got a gun about what he did. Look, he said, if I'd got a bloody gun, lucky, I'd give it, he said, and he wasn't be quick enough to use it.
Yeah.
He said, and either of them could have given me a good order. He said, I finished up, they went. He said, I bluffed my way out of it. And he said he always has done. He gone all through his life bluffing himself, or bluffing his way through. He got threatened at Park House many times. And he always got by. He said there was a chap at Park House. He was a chap that they were all frightened of. The firemen were frightened of him, the overmen. And one time they were short a man. And he said, well, what about him, like, for do a job, or a special job or something? Oh, no, my God, you mustn't ask him, like. He'd go up the wall, like. What, he said? Sent for this chap. Oh, blimey. He starts off straight. Right, he said. He knocks his lamp out. Go and see Jimmy. Sent him up to pit, see Jimmy Ogden. Anyway, he comes down in. Oh, I've seen Jimmy, like in such a road, and he'd come down again in no time. Well, look, he says, go and see, what was it, Sumnall, I think was the manager. Well, take your bloody self off, he said, and go and see Sumnall. He comes back, oh, I've seen Sumnall. He said, well, look. He come back just as big-headed, you know. Right, he said. Now, look, take yourself up, he said, and if you come down again, he said, I'll bloody prosecute you. He said, that cured him. He said he had to go home, he didn't come down again. He said, because I'd have bloody prosecuted him. And he could have done.
Can
He
a
said, but it
fireman do
cured
this?
him. He was overman.
Overman.
Oh, fireman can, I? Oh, yes. If he orders you out of the pit, even a fireman, if you go down again, he can prosecute you, and the manager can't do nothing about it. A fireman has a bigger privilege than anybody. If he orders a chap out of the pit, well, even the manager's liable if he lets him stop in. A fireman, you see, is the only one for safety, really, by law. Even the manager don't alter a fireman's orders.
Does a fireman do the actual exploding?
He does, but he's no need to do. You can have what they call a shot lighter for that.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Some places you can have a shot lighter, as they call it. He does just the firing. Shot firing, you know. But a deputy is like a safety officer. A fireman, the law stands by him, no matter who says anything, you know.
And do you reckon he would actually pan a bloke if necessary, would he?
Oh, blimey, yeah. He had one youth, Park House. He catched out on him and his shirt come off. He one youth, he's a funny fella, though, this fella. He'd been had up for throwing axe at his wife down Entry. He was a very dangerous character. He was one that'd pick up or anything, you know, let drive. And then, you know, the old man didn't give him chance, he said. He just called out to him by his shirt, and he was going to pick him up off his feet, you know, and his shirt come off. His shirt ripped off. He said, we'd put the wind up him. He said it cured him, and he bought him another shirt after. He bought him a new shirt after. It was very funny. That chap, I was telling you, that chap that nobody dared say anything to hardly. He said, I stood there, he said, I'd got bloody sweat running out of me face, and he said, if he'd have picked one enough, he said, I'd have flattened him. He never knew what hit him. He used to be a funny character. He said, I'll tell you. He'd got hands bigger than mine, blimey. He reckoned he could pick me up, one hand.
Haven't you got a
At
photo,
one time when he
Father?
was younger, you know.
Haven't you got it? We've got one, haven't we? Photo, Father?
Yeah, I got it.
We'll have a look.
Okay, I'd like to see.
Not when he was young.
Oh, no,
Well,
no.
John, would you like to knock off?
Oh dear, shink off, Father.
Hey, the work he did was prodigious, wasn't it?
He was never at peace. He was always doing something, Father was. Always. He was
No, you
never
see,
said...
these he did in the last few years.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Now, he did thousands before he ever started painting. When he was studying, he did thousands of them.
John, that's
Bigger
not
than them, you know.
John,
Well,
that's
these
not
are the
shot.
sort.
Yes, just now, yes.
Oh, yes, he had about 3 or 4 years there was. Dead awkward, didn't want to do a job. Right, he said, that's it. Get your rags on. So, he said, what about a note for us going up? You have to have a note sheet to go up the pit. You're not allowed to go up anyhow yourself, you know. What, he said? You think I carry pencil and paper for the chaps that don't want any bloody work? And he finished up, he wrote it on a lump of rock, you know, and chew a chalk. Right, he said, you can either take that or stop where you bloody are and not get paid. They wouldn't have got paid, you see. And he had 2 at Park House the same. Sent for one chap. He said, well, when he was coming, I could hear him a mile off. Better up on the bloody dole he was on and all this. As soon as he got there, right, he said, all right, never mind. Sends another chap, he's down near as bad. He's on about it before he gets there. Nearly he didn't want the job. All right, carry on. He finished up, he had him in the pit all day and not got paid. He wouldn't give him a note to go up. And they had to ask about, muck about in the pit all day, doing nothing. not got paid. And when they came up, he told the management to withhold the cards. One chap was packing in and one thing and another. Anyhow, they withheld the cards a day too, and anyway, one chap was no good like, he packed in, but the other chap changed his mind and he decided to do as he's told. The other chap was all right, but one chap finished. But he said it cured the other one. He didn't argue after.
I wonder if he made many enemies. Do you reckon he did?
Well, he bound to meet some because, I tell you, that Saturday business, Saturday afternoon always, when there's football match on, he made lots of enemies then, really. Because one time they threatened that much that he phoned up the pit for the police to be at the pit top. They thought so, but he was he's phoning with the cats down, you know. He's holding the cats down. Holding the cats down while he's phoning, they thought it was real. But it quietened them. Because you can only get up the shaft, you know. Well, if the police at the top, you haven't got a chance, they've got you, haven't they? And he phoned up, supposed to be phoning up. Don't have the police there for the ringleaders, you know. He mentioned the ringleaders and all this. And that quietened him. That sort of thing, yeah. Yeah, he had that sort of thing. He was threatened many times over that. Because he said it used to happen about every month. He'd leave it for about a month, come out. He'd judge it, you know, come out about the time. And they were there going mad, crushing for the cage, fighting nearly to get in the cage. Right, knock the cage away. Right, he said...
So we'll just let it run and ignore it. If it isn't working, we'll just have to do without Mr. Burgess, you know, and I'll try and remember what was said, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
When did Charlie Brown come, do you reckon, to Parkhouse?
Now then, I see. In 1926, Mr. Scott. Must be around 1926, something like that.
To Parkhouse?
Yes.
And how long did he stay there?
Oh, I say about 10 years.
10 years?
Yes.
And after that he moved somewhere else in this district?
I need to see, I retired in 1955. No, he'd be there over 10 years. He retired when just after the NCB took over. Was that 1947?
It must have been about that.
Yes, yes.
What sort of man was he? What position had he in the pit, Mr. Burgess?
He was overman there.
Overman?
Overman, yes.
What does that mean?
It's the one below the undermanager, you see.
Mm-hmm.
He takes... he's responsible for certain districts, you know. And then there's the deputies underneath him and shot fires.
Mm-hmm. Is the overman also the fireman for safety?
Well, the fireman is the real one for safety, but the overman's above him. If he sees anything that should be attended to, you know.
Mm. What sort of man did Mr. Brown strike you as?
Pardon?
What sort of man was he?
Oh, he's all right. We could have some fun at times, you know.
Like what?
Well, I remember once one of the deputies take home Charlie on his motorbike, you know.
Yeah.
Because Charlie's just getting on us. Deputy starts off with motorbike and off goes the stairs. See, you know.
What, torn?
Pardon?
Torn?
He's torn his stairs right up, you know.
Yeah.
Because he stops his bike and bugger off. we kid him about that many times, you know.
And why did he tell him to bugger off?
After he'd done this, torn his stairs.
Oh, on Charlie Brown's motorbike?
No, it is a deputy's motorbike.
And Charlie Brown tore his trousers?
And he was getting on at the back, you know.
Yes.
And he starts off with this motorbike and up his
Was he respected among the miners?
Oh yes, yes,
Was he?
yes, aye.
Was he a man of big bearing?
Of what?
Big bearing. You know, was he a fine built man?
Oh yes, he was. Aye. Aye, well built man.
Did you ever see his paintings in his house?
Yes, oh yes, some lovely paintings.
Uh-huh.
Have you found out one of his daughters anyway?
One of them in Etruria, but I haven't spoken to her yet.
No.
I spoke to her the last time I was here, but I haven't, you know,
Yeah,
I haven't had a lot to do with her yet.
yes. Aye, he, I think he had about 3 daughters.
Mhm.
Oh yes, I went up and had a look at his paintings. In fact, got them many, I thought the wife would never have done bringing them down.
Where to?
Upstairs, you know.
Oh, he sent the wife to get them all?
Yes.
Was he proud to show them off?
Oh yes, yes he was. He did have some on show, I believe. At the Vine at Etruria.
Yes,
And then he's had them in the museum, you know.
yes. Did he give you the impression of having spent his whole life painting? I mean, because there are so many of them.
Well, that was really his hobby, you know, painting. I sat at home painting. I remember going up one morning, he'd been ill and he just got it all out there painting.
When you went to see him when he was ill?
Yeah.
What was wrong with him?
Arthritis,
Mhm.
all down again. And while I was there, you know, it got this methylated spirit in a glass and lighting it and putting it on and draw it up, you know, to draw the flesh up.
What? Is that how they do it?
That's how he was doing it, yeah.
Methylated spirits?
Yes.
And he burnt his leg?
It didn't burn. No, it didn't burn. He just kept it on so long and it seemed to draw the flesh up, you know. And then he'd pull it off again.
What, a rag? A burning rag?
No, after the manner of a wine glass.
Yes.
Aye, and he'd just pour a drop in and light it and put it over. And I've never seen anything like that before.
Had the doctor told him to do it?
I couldn't say.
Huh?
Mm.
That's funny. Let's just see if we get one.
Yeah, before you switch, I was several times.
What sort of woman was she? A small woman, his son says.
She wasn't too, not big built woman.
No.
No, she was small, but very nice person.
Mm.
And very quiet too. She was very quiet and reserved.
When you went to see him with his leg and the methylated spirits, was he living in Etruria then?
Was he what?
Living in Etruria then?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. Oh, I wouldn't remember him living there.
What,
All the time I knew him.
at Lord Street or Etruria Street?
On the main street, just before you get to the canal.
Yes.
Aye. They're knocked down now, those houses are.
Yeah. But when he was, before he died, he moved to another one, didn't he? They demolished that one.
Yes.
Mm. Which room did he have for his painting?
I couldn't tell you really.
But it was a two-roomed house, presumably, and he had one of them for his painting, didn't he?
I don't know really. I'd lost sight of him after he'd left, you know.
Mm.
I think I only saw him once from when he left.
Mm. Where was that? Where did you see him afterwards?
I met him down in Newcastle one day.
Did you?
Yes.
Did he stand out in the crowd? Did he stand out as a man?
Oh yes, yes. He was well respected, Charlie was.
Was he?
Yes.
Now somebody told me the men used to laugh at him down the pit, but this doesn't seem to be true from what other people have said. Do you think they respected him down the pit?
Yes, he did, but you see, Charlie had some way, you know, of talking to the man, and then they'd just say, he's here again, you know, and have a good laugh.
Mm. Well, he was a joker with them, was he?
He'd do a bit of joking, you know.
Well, did he ask them for baccy? Somebody said he asked them for baccy and they just laughed.
For tobacco?
Yeah.
No, he didn't. Charlie didn't chew tobacco.
Did he not?
No. It was another old man that used to do that, Jim Harry Hayes. He was always begging tobacco. Aye.
Well, you were an actual deputy, Mr. Burgess, were you?
Me?
Yes.
I rose from shot fighter to senior overman.
Senior overman?
Yes. When I finished.
What does a shot firer do?
Well, you see, when you've got the face cut,
Yeah.
and that's where the machines, you know, cut to the machines. There's what we've got a borer going along, you know, boring holes. Well, he fires these holes down and blows all the coal down, you see.
I see. That's the shot firer's responsibility.
Yes.
Has the overman to watch over him for safety?
The overman watches over the lot, you know, as regards safety.
Does he?
Yes.
And he wouldn't let a shot firer shoot without his permission?
Well, he has the permission to shoot. The shot firer, he takes his own responsibility as regards fire damp or anything, you know.
Mm.
But if a woman comes around and finds some fire damp, he'd point it out to the shot firer, there's fire damp at a certain place, have you been up there and examined? Of course, there's no shot firing done then till it's cleared.
Uh-huh. How do they see fire damp? How do they detect it?
Oh, you detect it on your lamp,
What,
on your
lamp?
safety lamp.
What does it do?
Well, you see, as you lower your flame,
Mm.
see that the gas comes in there, gets in the lamp,
Yes.
but it won't go through the gauze through the gauze in the lamp, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you lower your flame down, the flame down to just a little cap like that, and then you get your percentages of fire damp. 1.25% you should not fire shots.
Mm-hmm.
2.5% you withdraw your man off the face altogether.
And how do you tell that it's 2.5%?
Well, it's like I haven't got a chart now as I could show you. It's like a small triangle of gas on your flame.
I see. And you can just judge by the size of it,
Yeah,
can you?
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you have to read from 1%.
yeah, I see.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first went in the mines? How old were you, Mr. Burgess, when you first went in?
14.
14. Where was that?
Nothing manner.
Nothing.
Silverdale.
What was it like going down in those days?
Well, chiefly all horses then, you know. All horses are what you call wagoning, pushing the tubs along.
Mm.
I started as a horse driver there.
What was it? Was it a long day
Was it
in those days?
8 hours?
8 hours.
Yeah. 8 hours. Well, we were really there 9 hours. We used to have an hour snapping because of the horses having their food, you know,
Mm.
and the rest.
Mm. And then what did you rise to?
After that, I started as on the face loading, you know, filling.
Fill in the tubs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, I started of course, you used to have to lie down and do the hauling under the, sprag it up, you know, and all the coal out from under the stone, and then that was fired and blown down.
Yeah.
No machines in that time.
No. So you were then a hewer?
Yes.
Uh-huh. How long were you a hewer?
I was there till I was about 25, and then I went in the Cruts at Apedale Foothills. And from there I went to the Parkhouse. I was there about 3 months, and then the manager asked me to go in for my certificate, you know. So I went and studied and passed my exam, and job for me straight away.
Was there? How many years did it take studying to get your certificate?
Oh, yeah, only 3 months.
3 months. Now, Charlie Brown studied 9 years for his.
Ah, well, he got his first flash, you know.
Did he?
Yes.
So he was a self-educated man, as it were.
Oh, yes, yes. Aye. Of course, we've done some joking with Charlie, you know, and used to kid him about when he was a young chap, he had a shotgun, you know. And he fired at the crow and he blew the chimney pot off it. We've had some fun. Well, you know how it is.
Yeah.
When you get with the company, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember one night, you know, before we had the baths, we had a, what they call the stripping room, the officials. We could wash in there, you know, change. So one night, we'd left Charlie down in the office, propped the door open so far, you know, put a bucket of water on top. And he opens the door, oh, didn't he just come out of it? You know, we've had some real good times, Charlie.
Because then he was always slightly under you, Mr. Burgess, was he?
Over.
Oh, he was over you?
Yes.
Oh,
Then
wow.
at that time, I was only deputy at that time.
So you were never under him?
No.
You were never over him?
No, never over him, no.
Oh, I see.
No. No, when I see Charlie. No, he was in one district, and I was in another district then when I was overman. He wasn't in the same district as me.
Mm. What time were you last with him? Was it about 19... When the last time you worked with him was when?
I should say it'd be just after the NCB took over. It wasn't long after that, about 1948.
Oh, and then he retired after that?
Yes.
So you were with him as a working man for his last 10 or so years?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Was he very bitter about his painting, never getting shown anywhere? Did he think he was a good painter?
Did he think what?
Did he think he was a good painter?
Yes, oh yes. Like Charlie didn't, he was too old for the superannuation when the NCB took over. But I believe they did make him a slight pension, you know. I don't know, they'd run about 30 shillings a week. And he never had to pay anything, you know.
Why did he come back from Somerset? Have you any idea?
No, I haven't the faintest idea whether he wasn't successful or what it was. I know he came to the park. Well, you see, he knew Mr. Ogden and Mr. Clark in younger days. See, I didn't know him whatever till he came to Parkhouse. I didn't.
Okay. And Mr. Ogden was he was the deputy manager, was he?
The under manager,
Under
the underground manager, Mr. Ogden was.
And they were big buddies, were they?
Yes, oh yeah. Aye. Oh, we've gone out sometimes, you know, and Mr. Ogden, we'd go to a shooting gallery, and of course, Charlie had swear that he was a good shot, Mr. Ogden wasn't. And he'd pull the card down. Charlie had swear that card had been fixed for him. Oh, you see, that bugger's been put there for you. And then get him on a bowling green, you know. Mr. Ogden, he was a really good bowler, Mr. Ogden, wasn't he? Get that And we'd get in Charlie where this ball wood was, you know. Oh, I've had some good times.
Well, Charlie Brown wasn't a good bowls player, was he not?
No, no, no. We'd just go on the green just for a bit of sport, you know.
Yeah. What sort of things did he do with his spare time when he wasn't penning?
I really didn't get out much after he went home. He did some painting. He went to, he'd go see ballet dancing now and again in Mr. Ogden. I remember Mr. Ogden telling me one day they'd been Cheadle and they'd missed the bus home, you know, and they were walking home. So Mr. Ogden says, "Lie down, Charlie." Lie down, he said, "We'll get a lift." Charlie lied down and Mr. Ogden's round him as though he's ill, you know. Car picks him up and brings him home. And then we'd say, "Come on, he's the patient."
Did he take all these jokes in good sort?
Oh, highly. Well, he knew we were all joking, but that was the time when the bucket, he didn't take that, you know. I don't know. He was really ill-tempered that night. "Come on, I'll clear the bill out of you," he said.
Was he fond of ballet dancing and music?
Yes, he was. He was fond of ballet dancing. And he didn't really go to the theatre much. But he'd go with Mr. Ogden. I know they used to go Tuesday nights very often when that was on.
I've spoken to his son up at Bignell End.
Aye.
He had one son, but the son gave me the impression that life in the house was very stormy. You know that Charlie was a very severe man with his family.
Oh, he was strict.
Was he?
Very strict. I know we were on one day and talking about home life and all that, you know. He said there's been more good hours than good mornings at our house. when he's been going work, you know. Aye.
His son gave me the impression that they were a bit frightened of him.
Aye, he was very strict, you know. Marky, if he lost his temper, a very funny man if he lost his temper.
Was he?
Yes, aye. I know how he showed himself that night when we did that bucket job.
Yeah.
Aye.
Well, he would have had a lot of you if he got the chance, would he?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go on.
Is his son living in Bignell End?
Yeah.
Aye.
They call him Charles, don't they? No, John Brown.
Charlie was really Charles William.
Yes.
C.W. Brown.
Yes.
I'll tell you what he do a lot of too. These safety posters with regard to the mine, you know.
Yes.
Aye, he draw an accident log and show you how it had happened. He was very good that way, Charlie was.
And pin them up in the mine, did he?
Yes. I knew I told him to draw one. He did draw it. And it was a shot fire, you know. And, you know, you should have a shot firing cable, nothing under 25 yards. Your shot firing cable. Well, I said, "Charlie, will you draw one that says of a shot fire, firing a shot, and he's too close to the shot." And he gets hit a bit with some of the coal as he's fired. "What do you mean, Jack Locke?" I says, "Well, draw one, will you?" I says I can do, and he'd drill the coal face there, you know, and this shot fire with his shot firing cable. And I had him putting on it. Foolish man. See, foolish man, cable short. Just foolish man, cable short, and it's where it had hit him and knocking him over, you know, and hit him in the face.
Mm. Mm. I've seen one or two of those. He kept one or two.
Have you seen one?
They're in somewhere in Handley Museum. Yeah.
Aye.
But then
A foolish man, cable short, stretchy bear, soon foolish man, cable short, stretchy bear, to be brought.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because at that time you were the deputy overman.
I was the deputy then.
Yes.
Aye, just before I was made overman.
Mm.
And then after that, during Mr. Scott's time, what would that be? 1937.
Yes.
Mr. Scott made me overman then. And then I was overman, senior overman from about 1950 to 55.
Mr. Brown's son said something about him that he was such a disciplinarian in the pit that he always walked around so he'd be at the same place in the same time every day. Is this true?
Oh well, you usually do that, you know. You'll start to the district and you'll get back for a certain time if you wanted somewhere else, you see. But if it was anything serious, they'd phone down after you.
So they always know where you are?
Yes, yes.
And if you saw something was wrong, would you say, oh, well, I'll come back later and look into it later?
If there was something wrong, you'd leave there and get to where you were sent for, you know.
Yes, that's
Where you found out there's something wrong, they'd send for you. And you'd leave that district then, you'd see the deputy, I'm off certain, the same as Spencroft or Peacock, wherever, whichever seam it was, you know.
Yeah. What do they call the seams? Seacroft and Peacroft?
Peacock, Spencroft, Grease Row, Canal Row, the different seams, you know.
Why do they call them? Who gives them the names?
Well, it's really names that have run for years, you know.
Is it?
There's the 4 foot, 10 foot, 7 foot. There's different seams, you know.
Yes.
See, the Parkers, they were only getting what you call the lean coals. They're the first coals you come to, you see.
Mm.
There's the Spencroft, Grease Row, Canal Row, and then you get to, what's the next seam? Brown Mine, you know.
Were you hit badly in the Depression around here?
Oh, not same as they were up north, you know. Mikey, when I was when I should be about 30, I've seen men standing on the bank, you know, and couldn't get a job. They couldn't get a job. And those days, you know, if a chap didn't work, don't send him me. I don't want him again, you know, and be in what they call the market. He'd come work and no work, off back home again. Them were hard times.
Yeah. So, Mr. Brown was buried once in a fall. Do you know anything about it? Did he ever talk about it?
No, he never told me anything about that. It wasn't at the Parkhouse.
No. Oh no, it was at Hanley Deep Pit, I think.
Oh, at Hanley, yes, he did work at Hanley too.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what I saw in his diaries. When he started in the mines at 13, there was a big explosion at one of the collieries, and they made it a rule that boys couldn't go down the colliery till they were 14.
Yes.
Now, which explosion would it be?
see the many disasters about 1920, wasn't it?
This must have been much earlier than that. This
Oh
must
yes,
have
way
been about
earlier than that.
1895 or something. Was it the Chatterley explosion?
I don't remember when it Chatterley.
Because you'd be the same age as Mr. Brown, were you? He'd be about 80 now.
I dare say I should be, yes.
He might be a year or two older.
I don't think he'd be much older than me, really. Now there was the Sneed, that was while I was at Parkhouse. There was the Mini while I was at Parkhouse. I don't really think of one around here at that time. That was.
It was just something he mentioned in his diary, you know.
It wasn't the Dig Lake, was it?
That's it.
The Dig Lake,
Dig
that
Lake.
was water.
Was it?
Yes.
Ah.
Well, I should be about 8 years old then.
Uh-huh.
That was when water broke in.
So he must have been a bit older than you. Because he was working then. He was 13. Because he started work when he was 12, you see.
Aye. Oh well, he would be a bit older than me then. Aye, it's 14 before you go down the bit. You go work on the bank, on the surface, you know.
Yes, yes. Was there ever a disaster or trouble in your time?
While I've been working,
Hmm.
well, I had one man killed, you know. It's a funny thing. It was just before we were finishing a district, and we were close to Bentley's colliery. And this Friday, he'd asked me to blow the waste in for him, you know, to get the roof coal. So I did fire this coal, this canal down that night, and I went in and examined. So when I saw him next morning, I pointed out to him what it was like. I said, there's a nasty lump. I said, just watch that, will you, Jack? So he said, yes, I'll watch it. So anyhow, Mr. Ogden came down on the Saturday morning to me, and this man was named Capper, Downing. But he always went in the name Jack Capper, you know. Well, Mr. Ogden came down. I was in bed. I'd been work at night, you know. The wife called me up. Mr. Ogden wanted to see me and sat down a few minutes talking, and he says, I'll come see you about Jack Downing. What about him, Mr. Ogden? He says, got killed. I said, Jack Downing? He says, he hasn't. I said, Jack Downing came out St. Thomas me. We were walking along Dulwich together. Oh, no, he says, Jack Capper, he says. Oh, good grief, I says. What's happened? He says, got it in the waist. Of course, I went to work on the Monday morning, you know, and had a look at this waist. It had all come in, you know. And the inspector came on the Monday morning and saw me back. I explained everything. Told him how I'd left it. The other deputy hadn't been there, you see. So I was the one responsible, because the other deputy hadn't arrived before the fatal accident.
Mm.
So I explained to the inspector and told him, he says, can you sketch it for me? I said, yes, I'll sketch it out for you. And I said, I'll try to do. I said, I'm not one for sketching. So he was well satisfied. And he says, you'll be at the inquest at 5 o'clock. Well, I could tell you how I felt, you know.
Mm.
Anyhow, when I got the inquest, it's his brother what was working with him at the time of the accident. Of course, they had my evidence, you know. And the inspector had seen this brother, and I'd explained everything, and this brother explained how they'd found it. It went like word for word. He'd found it, and they'd propped everything up, you know, and this lump had happened come over. And of course, one of the jury says, well, he says, did you think it was safe to go in? He says, did I think it was safe to go in? He says, do you think either me or my brothers had gone in there if it hadn't have been safe? He says, we made it safe. And of course, the inspector says, well, he says, I've just had the same evidence off his brother. He said, the deputy gave me on Monday. So everything was cleared then, you know.
Yes.
It's the only fatal accident I really had as regards on the face.
Yeah.
I did have one that happened, and it was a young fella, a local preacher he was, really good liver.
Uh-huh.
And the conveyance attendant hadn't come that morning. So I said to Mr. Ogden, shall I put so and so on? No, he says, no, don't put him on, Jack. He says he'll be getting his head swelled. Like as nobody else could do the job. So he says, put Frankie on. Well, I put this Frankie Kennedy on. You know, it was very wet, and what Frank had done, he got a board to scrape the roller, scrape slack off. And this board happened to go in the rollers. And instead of loosening it, he used to try and pull it back. And he went in the rollers. Well, it's just killed him straight out, you know. But after that, these accidents do have to happen, you know. You find something else, then more safety.
Yes.
After that, we'd always guards put on then.
Yes.
No one could get near.
Mm.
But them are the two fatal accidents I'd had
I suppose
all through my 40 years.
if you'd been found responsible by either one, it would have ruined you, wouldn't it?
If what?
If you'd been found responsible, it would have ruined your
Oh yes,
career.
yes, yes,
Mm.
yes.
Was Charlie Brown he was very strict on his safety precautions as well, was he?
Oh yes, yes. Well, if you're not, you know, you could soon have some accidents. You've got to be strict.
Yes.
And what always made me more very keen, my dad lost his life in the pit.
Did he?
Yes. Aye. And it always made me very keen afterwards.
Yeah.
I know I've many a time said, come on, let's have another prop up, you know, if you just saw him getting out of distance a bit.
Mm. Mm. As boys, did you mess about with the pit ponies? Did you look after them? And
Do what?
as boys, did you mess about with the horses? As boys, did you drove the horses, didn't you?
Yes, yes.
Did you play with them when they were up top, or were they always?
Oh, they were down the pit all the time, you know.
Were they?
Oh, yes. I know what we used to do. They'd go to the market when it's snapping time. You'd just pull shafts off your horse, and away they'd go. You'd got to follow them. I knew the way to the stables. And then at night time, you know, and wash the feet, legs so far, you know, because of having cracks in the, with being in the mud and sludge, you know. Wash the feet every night before they went in the stables.
Well, were they well looked after?
Yes, oh yes.
Mm.
Aye. I seen the other now a snapping, you know, so they should have a good snapping, and rest.
And they knew, did they?
Oh yes, they knew. They knew when it was snapping time and when it was lucid. I'd one horse though, he was a devil. He used to bite me. Every time I was passing him, he'd have a snap at me, you know. So I said to the horse, I said, well, the devil, this princess, he keeps on ripping my shirt or something. He says, why don't you cure him? I said, well, cure him? In which way? He says, bite his ears, he says, when he bites you. He says, and bite it till it bleeds. He says, he won't bite you again. And I did do. And I tell you, he set up such a squeal, this horse did, but he never bit me again.
Did they have an ostler look after them all the time?
Yes, yes.
He was in charge of the stables, was he?
Yes, yes. Well, at one horse, you know, they were what they call steady couplings in like a bar. When I was on the pit length then, picking the loads up and taking them to the pit. This horse, when we used to get in the shunt, hook him to the first load, just go. He knew what distance to pull that load to couple up again.
Did he?
Aye. And as soon as we got 8 loads on Prince, off we'd go, you know.
Were they well cared for, the pit?
Oh yes, yes.
And they were happy enough down there?
Yes, aye. Aye, they knew the stall that they were in too. Aye.
Did you live in this area, Newcastle, all that time?
No, I was living in Silverdale then, when I was working
Silverdale.
at the racecourse. I came to Newcastle in 1915.
Mr. Brown lived a long way off, didn't he? At Truro to here.
It's true, yes.
How would he get here in the morning?
Oh, those buses, you know. You get the bus. You've got the bus to work.
What would he wear down the pit as a deputy?
Oh, you only wear the same kind of clothes.
What, your normal clothes?
Yeah, your working clothes.
What were they?
Well, you see, it's your old clothes, and then you get a pair of, really, you buy a decent pair of pit trousers.
Like moleskins?
Moleskins, yes. Oh no, you go bad. You're all the same. Since they had the baths, you know, you had used to take your clothes home to be repaired, but after they had the baths, you'd repair them yourself with a bit of shot wire or something if you got them torn. You just brought your working shirt home and towel and that, you know, just to be washed. But your pit clothes are there all the time.
He was always a very smart man, wasn't he?
Yes, he was smart. Aye. Pretty straight, Charlie wasn't. Very smart. More like a military man, you know.
Yeah. And yet he was very gentle in character. He wasn't violent, was he?
No, he wasn't violent. Like he hadn't got to cross him.
Yeah.
If you crossed him, he was a bit keen then.
Yeah. And if necessary, presumably he could use his strength. His son said when he was a very young man he did hit somebody, you know, who tried something down the pit.
Oh, I dare say he would, yes, that's it. I never saw him really in a very nasty temper.
No.
But if someone happened to see him at work, like, just cross him a bit, he'd give them a good mouthful and let them know as he was the boss. He would let them know as he was the boss then.
What was it like when you were boys down the pit? How many boys would there be down the pit?
Well, I dare say, it just depends how many is employed there, you see. Certain district, since they've had machinery, you'd have, say, 6 or 7 in the pit crut. sending loads down, sending wagons round, sending them to one district, another district. And then you'd have about 1, 2, 3, 4 at the gate end, where you're loading the coal off the conveyors, you know. There'd be one lad hitching the loads up, another one working the conveyor, another one pushing the tubs under. You'd have about 4 to 5, and then there'd be your roadman as was looking after the drawing going, and if there's any trouble on the haulage, you got loads off or anything, you see.
What were the wakes like in the potteries in those days? They were a lot brighter than they are now, weren't they? Did you ever go to one of those early wakes?
Early what?
Wakes. Weeks.
Oh, the wakes?
Yeah.
Oh yes, they're more like, nothing like that today, you know.
No. What did they have?
Yeah, everything. Menageries and everything on the wakes ground, you know.
Where was it held?
They held it down Lane. They used to hold them at the Smithfield down Newcastle. I remember when I was a boy, they had them in the middle of the town when I was a boy.
Yeah, middle of Newcastle.
Yes. I remember a chap named Morgan, Charlie Morgan, you know, they came in menagerie down to the Smithfield. I was only about 18 then. And riding round, you know. This Charlie said he'd enter the lion's den, and they took him round the town, going to enter the lion's den. And when he got there at night time, he was at once a bit of a joke, you know. When he got there, he went to the lion's cage, and people were watching there, you know. When he gets there, and the lion tamer says, "Well, come on." He says, "Fetch that lion out," I said, "and then I'll go in there." Peter Morgan, not Charlie, Peter his name was.
Did you ever go to one of Charlie Brown's painting shows when he had them up?
I only went to one at the museum once.
Yeah.
It's 3 or 4 there that day.
Did they look good compared to everybody else's?
Yes, well, they were very good, yes. That one that he drew of the wedge with the pot bank, the old pot bank, you know, it's truly.
Yes.
It always stands in my son's eye, very often talks about it. Of course, he was only a boy then, you know.
Yes. And he left about 8 sketch pads, you know, full of drawings of machines. But this was when he was from a young man. He used to draw all the machinery down the pit.
Yes. And that'd be mostly haulage machinery. There'd only be just it wouldn't be like machinery we've got today. It'd be the old earth bar cutter and Cowley Walker's cutters, you know.
And he reckoned they were installing one pit when he was a young man, and he drew all the stuff then. As they installed it, he drew all the machinery. He was going to write a book.
Was it when he was a young man?
Yes.
Well, it wouldn't be machinery like they've got today. It'd be old-fashioned cutters, and there really wasn't much else then. They did have what they call the shakers. What would that be? About 1917. The shaker conveyor. That was the first conveyor ever I saw, you know. That was like a quadrant, and it kept pulling the pans up and shaking it down, you know.
And did that get rid of the pit pony system?
Yes. It got to, you'd got your haulage then, your main haulage. That got shut the ponies all together.
Yeah.
I know when I first went to Burgess, they got the ponies, you know,
Yes.
and then we got this haulage fixed up. That knocked the ponies off. Oh, it's a big improvement, that was haulages to the ponies.
I take it that Mr. Brown wouldn't have, in his job, he wouldn't have any time to sit about sketching down the pit.
About what?
In his job, he wouldn't have time to sit sketching when he was at work.
Oh, no, he don't memorise it all, you know. No, he wouldn't have time to do any sketching, but you know, it's in your memory all the time.
Yeah. So all those pit drawings are from memory of his then?
Will be, yes, yes.
Where did you hear the news that he died? Did you get out of the paper?
I saw it in the Sentinel when he died, yes. And just at that period I wasn't too well myself, I couldn't get to the funeral.
Yeah.
Aye.
Well, thanks very much, Mr.